Thank you very much, Susana, and it's lovely to be here. Susana's been an excellent co-chair as well, by the way, at the VRI Association. So it's been really great to start seeing the growth in VR for good and games for change and everything that we can do for good with technology. We take it. So I'm here with Miriam Gray. Miriam, say something, please. Don't leave me here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for having us. My name is Miriam Gray, and I'm in charge of the global communications for the water at the World Bank Group.
So lovely to have you here. We're going to try to do this as much informal, fast-paced as possible. So if you need to get to us, please find us on LinkedIn. We'll be happy to connect. We love networking, etc. So a little bit on the content itself that I have. So we represent basically the World Bank, and we are in constant use of technology. So we can actually use content, use technology, use medium, anything that we can think of, so we can engage on that end. So sorry, I'm going too fast on my slides. If we can, there you go. So to talk a little bit of what the World Bank does, right? We basically, the World Bank is one of the largest international organizations in the world, focusing exclusively on poverty reduction around the world. So basically helping people that don't have access to the basic means, and that can be either transport and climate and water, access to sanitation, very important now in COVID times. So instead of hearing us rambling about it, we're going to play this little video. This is a new experience that we actually just launched about the Sahel in Africa, and talking a little bit about the needs in the area. So here we go. So this is a great example of what we did for this project, right? When we created a full 360 experience where you can actually see the expansive desertic area in Africa, and we created all about interactivity, right? So non-linear storytelling is what we're trying to do, and talk a little bit about the World Bank does. This is a great example, focusing on climate change, on the actual people that receive benefits, and then on the infrastructure itself. So Miriam, if you wanna.
Yeah, so, for us, virtual reality is a brilliant way of communicating with our stakeholders, providing this instantly recognizable visual experience that enables us not only understand how, for instance, hydropower plant works somewhere in Niger, or wastewater plant somewhere in Colombia, but also contribute to making it more efficient and effective. It takes a technical drawing and converts it into a powerful immersive experience anyone can understand, not only a water engineer. We've been working hard on making sure that we're creating this experience in Niger, specifically on one of the dam projects, the hydropower project we've been working. It's a high risk area. We can't necessarily send people to document all the changes the project goes through. It takes a while to get there. So that's a brilliant way to help us to communicate with the wider audience, not necessarily traveling and being able to access this unseen project sites before.
Thank you, Miriam. And that's what we're trying to do. So essentially using technology so we can, the World Bank in our case, it's really a service group that we let everybody come to us and say, hey, I need technology, like groups like Miriam's when the water team wanted something. So we basically focus on operation support so we can help anybody do their work on a day-to-day basis. And it's all about knowledge sharing so the experts on the field can help countries get ahead and be professionals in the areas that they're trying to develop. And it becomes an immersive learning such an important aspect of the whole situation there. So we did a ton of that on the, we did, for example, a very interesting documentary about, in Niger, about access to the general and basic needs. But some of these countries really suffer from being surrounded by violence, by lack of access for jobs, and it's also very difficult to access places. So when we have a meeting like the one you see there, then we have people from different countries that are decision makers, that we can actually put a headset on them. And in this case, we did 190 headsets synchronized, and so you can actually see them and then connect with the beneficiaries in this end. So we do a lot of engagement in these cases, and our great activation about blue economy and all the economy related to oceans and environment. So very much interesting to see the engagement when you're physically there. You can put a headset on somebody and then they can explore a lot more. And then we elevate that. I'm glad that we had talks here about disabilities and diversity and inclusion. So we did an awesome one, a training on sexual orientation and gender identity. And when you do activations like this, you can actually convert the environment to actually match how it looks in the experience. In this one, we have our own staff that acted in the experience there, and then they were the ones that were actually helping people through the training and so forth. And we just launched our disabilities one, where we're actually putting, this is all internal in this case, about creating situations of inclusiveness or non-inclusiveness, and people can experience how to be in meetings or situations on business based on that end. But then we take it farther, right? So we were doing all this for remote monitoring, decision making, all that, and then obviously this happened. So we get to COVID times, and our own teams, the World Bank in general, they live in 170 offices around the world, and now we can travel, we can have access to these sites so they can see and share this knowledge that we talked about. And what do we do, right? So the first thing we did is, but we started sending 360 cameras. So we have, I've been living with this GoPro in my desk, and we have our whole team actually distributing and doing remote training, right? So people can actually send a camera out to these countries. Our own staff wasn't able to travel much, so we got actually partners on the ground to use the cameras. And then, when COVID started, it wasn't easy. This is my living room in the first few weeks, because we were just getting everything into our own houses and getting packages with hard drives and tripods and cards and everything that you think you would need. So then we give it to teams like Miriam's team, and they can actually make something useful out of it, right?
Right. A lot of it, interestingly enough, and you can imagine in the institution like the World Bank, a lot of our audiences to just try to promote, the user of technology is internal audience, convincing our technical team leads to make sure that they understand how it works, get access, and basically socializing the services which we have, Jimmy's team has to offer. That was a big part of our team, of our work. We took, a lot of I spent a lot of time talking with our task team leaders, explaining how the system works, how the 360, camera works. And, there's lots of excitement. And for somebody which is, we are creative people, but the institution itself is quite, we rely on a conservative way of communicating, sort of, it was a really groundbreaking thing. So now, if, we did have a lot of skeptics, but look, what I really think is happening right now is basically we're living the future, and it's happening right now. After all, if some of our skeptics thought that the VR experience and spaces or meetings are weird, they're much better than the reality we had to live in the last 18 months. So, whether pandemic has been a true boon for VR depends on whom you ask, even to this day. But on my team, the Water Global Practice team, we've been working with Jimmy last 3 years, creating really interactive virtual spaces, imagining the place where the world would never have to run out of water, showing the space how we can transform a big knowledge repository in an interactive way, and show basically what the institution is doing. And, since the 3 years ago, we've teamed up with Jimmy's team, creating these virtual spaces, and then what happened is that pandemic hit. Since the beginning of COVID, pretty much all of our meetings at the bank went either virtual or been completely canceled. And, we still, we don't really know, we still don't know what's going to happen once the sort of what the pandemic induced change will remain permanent or whatnot. But for us, it was a groundbreaking space and a really disruptive when it comes to 360 technology and the virtual and immersive world. So in May 2020, in the midst of, pandemic, when we really didn't know what is happening, for the first time, we pretty much opened the doors to our World Bank building to anyone else who would like to access it. Virtually, that is. We've transformed our atrium, the main building on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., a block away from White House, into an open learning campus where those people who could never travel, were able to access our annual event. So we, skeptics were very vocal about how we're going to interact with the social space, because that's so important for those get-togethers. But in my mind, I think everyone was absolutely blown. Like I remember sitting down and meeting 6 people I'd never met before. I mean, some of them were working the exact problem I was working, and I never even heard of them. I probably would have never heard of them if not for this specific experience. Now, next thing we all know, the affordability and performance of some of the newest virtual gaming rigs and, the instigated population boom by the virtual reality community, the proponents of the VR space across the bank. You can see that Jimmy has presented. Jimmy's team is overbooked because of all the virtual field missions, all these immersive experiences. So it has been an absolutely mind-blowing transformation as far as the communications goes. In my experience.
Yeah, and I would say that, so when we were first approached for this one, so it was very early in the pandemic, and people were very nostalgic, right? So everybody's missing their office, and we went ahead and pitched this idea of, okay, let's bring everybody to the building. But let's make it, water centric. So the first thing we thought was, okay, let's put a waterfall there. Actually, help with the partners from Vision as well, and then we actually added water into the walls where the little cafe was very interesting. And we have these pyramids. We're going to show you this video now, and before, if you enter the World Bank in DC, the pyramids are an iconic thing in the building. But now you can actually click the pyramids and they open up. And when they open up, it's full of media, full of publications. So it makes all this content engaging and want you to actually explore more. So it became a really good base. This was actually more when web VR was, a thought into the globalization of VR, let's say, without having to depend on technology, which it is. But now we see so much happening on the immersive side of the web that is also kind of new to us. There's a thing called the web, and you can actually do websites with it. And thanks to initiatives and having these partners like Miriam that actually pushed us farther to think outside the box, and even if it's the same World Wide Web we've been all using before. So with that, we'll try to play this little trailer. I hope you enjoy the idea of what we try to do.
I also just wanted to come in, this year we've sort of tried to not necessarily replicate, but follow our good experience from last year, which was really disruptive, I would say, in the communications, sort of external communications. And it was amazing how technology has grown by leaps and bounds in the last year alone, from this whole sci-fi novelesque goals like controllerless hand and full body tracking, now well within the reach. So I just want to say that, just like I said, the future is now. Before we knew it, it was the time for the new generation VR. What Jimmy is showing is what I said earlier, is, this whole virtual reality, how it was really helping us to communicate to diverse range of stakeholders. that does help people to understand how, for instance, the wastewater plant design works. We use it in trainings. We try to make sure that we complement our teams, with some knowledge and learning materials when it comes to virtual reality. And the opportunities are incredible. I mean, like I said, this is a really, I understand, but from my perspective, is the true future of communication.
Yeah, and thanks to your team also to take it farther. It's not easy to pitch this idea of trying to do social VR, and get people to engage with avatars. So for us on the gaming community, and you can see probably all this audience here that, what are you talking about? We've been playing games and doing all this stuff for years, but try to transport all that into an institution like the World Bank, which is a lot more traditional, and you have to tell somebody, hey, you need to come in on an avatar now and play. But the take-in has been incredible. So we started with Mozilla Hubs actually in 2 years ago now almost. We elevated all this now with Verbella, who, if you haven't tried it, please do. It's a computer-based application and now evolving into web-based as well. And as you can see from this meeting, we had teams coming in all the time, and big kudos to the team for deploying it. You can see how you can change your avatar, your clothing, your interactions. We actually hosted Earth Day at the World Bank in April, and it was a huge event with tons of people coming in through the day with like 13 presentations live. So
and teams loved it, absolutely loved engaging. Those people who are very skeptical, it's a generational issue as well. I think, not that I'm considering myself that young, but it was really fulfilling to see that how people are really excited and participating. And, I think, like I said, the future is now.
There you go. And then the last thing I want to say, big thanks to the team. Miriam keeps saying Jimmy's team. Honestly, I feel so proud to be part of the company of all the people that we work with internally, and also partners like Miriam and their team and Lilu and everybody that actually was part of the growth of all this. So you can never do this alone. And I'm sure you're going to hear this a ton in this conference, is that technology on its own will never solve any problems on its own. And it really is how you can use technology, how people actually act on it. And you would need to really elevate and let your teams elevate you and your thinking and your clients as well. Miriam, any last thoughts?
No, just extremely excited to be part of it, and let's continue. I think there's quite a bit of pickup on a lot of initiatives across the bank to include this innovative way of thinking. Again, like you said, not maybe for most of the community, but I think for our institution, it has been a groundbreaking thing, and it's really good to see it's being used.
Absolutely. And focus on impact. You can always do games for profit, for everything like that, and marketing, and you're going to try to get tons of opportunities, and you must try to be profitable in your life. But also think, how can we use this for good? How can we do change? How can we transform our environment and do a little bit of contribution to our community and others? So thank you very much. And many thanks, everybody, for inviting us for this awesome event. So carry on, and hope you enjoy the day.